Today, I'm so excited to bring y'all another episode of Fandom Firsts. We have Jupieverse here, we have Miktastic here. Basically, what we do is we just sit down and we chat about fandom, and that includes fanfic, that includes headcanons, that includes like the fan forums from back in the day, that includes like what were we all watching in a totally legal normal way at like the age of 11 that we probably shouldn't have been watching. Hello friends, thank you for coming.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Y'all can just tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you do. You can talk about what you do as a content creator. You can talk about what you do as a person. Both is welcomed, and where we can find you, and when we can find you, and all of the things. So whoever wants to go first can go for it. Let me move myself over.
Hi, I'm Jupie. My pronouns are she, they. You can find me at Jupieverse pretty much everywhere. I actually rebranded recently, which was really exciting. So Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all that, you can find me at Jupieverse. I am an actor and a content creator, so I do stream and create content. And when I'm not on Twitch or creating content or hanging out with my cool online friends. I'm out in the world acting. I just got back from performing at a music festival, and I also do immersive performances in my city, out in my community very often. So, right now, I'm currently on a streaming break, but I will be back soon enough.
My name is Mick or Miktastic. I am a variety streamer. I am also an ace advocate, musician, and a potter.
What kind of music do you play also?
I play the piano and the trumpet, and I'm trying to learn the trombone currently.
How hard is that?
It's actually not that difficult since I have like other brass experience.
Thank you both again so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. What was your first fandom experience? And the follow up to that is like, when you were having this fandom experience, did you know like what fandom was as a concept?
Mine is low-key embarrassing, but I was a huge Potterhead growing up.
Weren't we
So that's
all? It's
probably
okay.
yeah, that's probably my first fandom experience. I don't think I knew what I was getting into, like, when I was in the fandom at first. I didn't really know, like, what that was. I think it wasn't really until later that I started to, like, understand the depth of being a Harry Potter fan and, like, what it all pertained to as a fandom, but I was in deep, okay? I was, like, reading all the books. I was going to, like, the midnight premiere at the bookstore when the books were releasing, like, seeing the movies, like, the premiere night, dressing up for the movies and the book premieres. I took Harry Potter classes, like, fun classes where we, like, pretended to be witches and wizards.
I love that. If it
So
makes
I
you
was
feel better, my friends and I literally gave each other fake Harry Potter homework to do. So like you were not
Aw.
alone in that. You
Yeah,
don't feel
yeah.
embarrassed by that.
No,
We all did
it's
it.
funny to reflect on it now because when I was growing up, I was raised as an only child, so I really turned to things like books and media and whatnot to, like, make friends and, find a sense of belonging. Because I my parents were working full time and I didn't what else was I gonna do? So I decided to become a little nerd, and be a Potterhead, but I don't think I really knew that it was a fandom, 'cause I was just really excited to, like, be part of this magical world and talk about it with other people.
I totally understand that. Mick, what about you?
I don't know, like I was into gaming a lot when I was a kid, so I guess that would be my first experience. I didn't really know like what fandoms were when I was a kid, so like I just talked about games with my friends like Mega Man, Dragon Quest. We talked about all that stuff and like what it would be like to, I guess, like be in those worlds. And I don't even think I started really talking about like anime stuff until I was in like late middle school, late high school.
What was the anime that like got you into like were all of your friends also into anime by the time that you got into it?
Oh yeah, I think Sailor Moon was actually the first anime that I saw, but I didn't know what anime was when I saw it. But I think Dragon Ball Z is probably the first one that I actually talked about with people.
Jupie, I wanted to ask you about I am so jealous that you got to go to the midnight book releases because I always wanted to, and my parents were like, you have a bedtime. And I always wanted to go up and like go in and like dress up and like do all the things. But anyways, who were your ships? Who were you rooting for?
I'm a mess, and I like villains, and I like bad characters. So I'm a huge Draco Malfoy stan, still to this day. House Slytherin forever. And I to the, to the dismay of all of my friends, I really ship Draco and Hermione together.
Oh, Dramione is such a
And
classic flavor. So classic.
yes. And I wanted them to be together so badly because I just thought that Ron was such a loser.
I mean, valid.
And looking back on it now, I realize that Ron is not a loser. He's just a late bloomer. But when I was young, I really liked this angsty kid so much more. And I just was I had held out this hope that somehow Draco and Hermione would be together. And on the flip side of that, as a closeted bisexual, this is like what, middle school and then high school, I was also shipping at the same time Hermione and Luna Lovegood because
So
that's my other
cute.
favorite characters, Luna Lovegood. Those are probably my like top 3 favorite Harry Potter characters. So in my mind, they were going to somehow get together and be gay.
I mean, I love that for you. Draco and Hermione makes so many points. I have read so much fanfic of the two of them together.
Oh yes.
It always hits. Classic flavor. Draco Harry was also a great ship. With so
Oh.
much. The amount of fanfic that was produced for Draco Harry is unreal. I'm like, y'all were really in the trenches
They
writing.
had sexual tension, like, you can't deny.
100%. Luna and Hermione is so cute. I love that. Also, this is just a disclaimer that although, you know, obviously, like, we have really good memories with so many things in media, I am not a supporter anymore of J.K. Rowling or
Mhm.
anything that she's doing, and I very actively do not give her money, and I'm very hard and fast by that rule. So that is just a disclaimer, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna throw away all of the great memories that we had with media that she happened to create. Pet appearance. What was the first fan fiction that you ever read?
Wow, that takes me back. Mine probably was Draco and Hermione, like, something about them being boyfriend and girlfriend. I honestly, like, I wasn't the biggest fan fiction reader. I would dabble here and there, but my best friend in middle school was, like, obsessed with fan fiction that she also wrote them. So normally when I would read them, I would read hers, to because I'm like, you know, I'm a supportive friend, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna read this." And I specifically remember her writing, like a Draco and Hermione because we were both obsessed with them. God, this is just so funny to think about now.
Do you remember if the first fic you ever read was like, it was your friend coming to you being like, I wrote this thing, can you read it?
I think it was, yeah, because this is my friend who I owe so much to. This friend showed me anime, they showed me like fan fiction, like they introduced me to this like online world that I had no idea that really existed.
Yeah.
And to just like kind of nerd culture in general beyond the scope of what I had known. And it's like it's weird too because I wasn't sheltered growing up, but like I said, you know, being raised as an only child, you don't have I didn't have older siblings to like show me these things and my parents don't know anything about this, so where else am I gonna find out about it? So yeah,
Yes.
this friend was instrumental in turning me into the nerd that I am today, and I have a lot to thank her for sure.
So the first fanfic I ever read was about Mega Man X, and instead of robots, they Mega Man and Zero they were both humans, and they fell in love with each other, which was pretty interesting. I don't typically read fan fiction all that often because I am very easily distracted. So I really enjoyed it.
Did you also have friends who were writing fan fiction?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Would they be
yeah.
like, "Can you read this?" Or did you not? Or were they typically like, "Oh, this is like a thing that you know about, but like I'm not gonna send it to you to read."
They never did. They never sent it to me because they were talking about stuff like what is it like Omegaverse and all of that things that I didn't really understand. So
Wait a minute. Back that up. Not my favorite topic. What year was this? Do you remember?
Well, this was like a few years ago.
Oh, this was a
so,
few years ago. Okay, never mind. Wow. I was
yeah.
thinking this was like
Oh
2006, and I was like, wow, you
no.
were there at like the inception of Omegaverse. I was about to be really excited.
When I was on Gaia Online at that time, which had a lot of
Yeah. Obviously, you both had friends growing up who were like involved in fandom, or at the very least, like were participating in the same thing that you liked. Have you, like, since I guess discovering other fandoms, have you made other fandom friends that are like really impactful in your life?
Oh, definitely. And I mean, I think it's changed a lot now. Because I mean, I don't like really actively engage in like the Harry Potter fandom anymore, just because obviously J.K. Rowling is horrendous and all that. Like, I have my memories. I'm happy with it. It kind of is what it is. But
Yeah.
since then, I've sort of like transformed, you could say, and I also became obviously a huge Moonie. And so when I started, hanging out on Twitch, even before I started streaming, something I noticed is that there were like a lot of Sailor Moon fans. And that is like one thing that really drew me to Twitch because I have always been a huge Sailor Moon fanatic. And so to like come online and meet other people who are excited about it, who want to talk about it and like are magical girls themselves or whatever was really, really exciting to me. My entire Twitch branding has been even like inspired by Sailor Moon, I would say, ever since I started streaming. So that's something that I still actively engage in and have made so many friends who are also Moonies, especially here on Twitch. And that's been really, really awesome. And then you get to talking about other animes and other fandoms even after that. But I feel like Sailor Moon's always kind of like the starting point for those friendships, which is really, really sweet.
That's so nice. Who's your favorite Sailor Moon character?
Sailor Jupiter, obviously, that's my girl. I love her so much. I have so much like Sailor Jupiter stuff, but Sailor Moon merch in general. You can see I have them all behind me, all my figures, and I have shirts. I have it all. I'm a bit of a collector, I would say.
Mick, what about you? What about fandom friends?
I made a lot of friends on Twitch through, Mega Man, like everybody knows that I like Mega Man. Like that's the thing. Like my VTuber model is like based on Mega Man. But what I didn't think was that I was gonna make so many friends that were super into Resident Evil. Like I have a lot of friends on Twitch that are like I thought I was like the Resident Evil person. Like they are the Resident Evil people.
Tell me more about that because I think I vaguely knew that you liked Resident Evil, but I didn't know like
Oh,
how much. What is your favorite Resident Evil? Who is your favorite Resident Evil character?
Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. I'm like a big Leon simp, I guess.
Who isn't?
I actually like one of my good friends, their name is Rat Pack. They're a Wesker simp. They're the only person that I know that's like crazy about Wesker.
I only know Wesker in the context of Dead by Daylight.
Oh yeah.
Which is the worst context to know him in.
But I mean, they managed to catch
cool
his camp. Like people don't realize that Wesker he's like super cheesy and super campy. Like if you play the first Resident Evil, like he's so cheesy. He's like a 90s villain.
I had another question for you, Mick, and I forgot about it, and now it's come back to me. Mega Man, because you were like, everybody knows that I am like the person that loves Mega Man. How did you first get into it?
It was actually like my brother. 'Cause my brother, he's like 6 years older than me, so like he always got like the latest games and stuff, and like he played like Mega Man X. Like that's the very first Mega Man game that I ever played, and like I watched him play it, and it was like mind blowing as like when I was a kid, and then I got to play it, and it was just life changing, and then I was hooked on it ever since.
How long did it take you? Because I consider you to be a person who's good at platformers, just like generally, to where you felt confident playing platformers.
It took me a while. I know that when I first started, I was very bad, and like so I was like 5, 6. So like I would cry, and I'd be like, "Brother, please beat this for me," and like he'd be like, "No," and then my parents
so cold.
would make him do it, and then eventually like I I played it, and so my thing is, I'm a very persistent person. So like, if I'm bad at something, I will just keep doing it over and over and over until I get past it.
That's a really, really good quality to have, to be honest. Like, that is something that a lot of people do not have, and it's really nice to be able, well, it's nice because you get to prove to yourself time and time again that you actually can do something, and then it gives you more confidence when you're doing the next hard thing to be like, wow, I could actually do that. Like, even if I suck at it right now, I have like 50 other instances where I sucked at something and then got really good at it because I just did not give up. So I think that's really good quality to have. Do your brother and you, even though there's like a 6-year age difference, do your brother and you talk a lot about like fandom stuff or like Mega Man or anything nowadays? Or do you just kind of like,
No.
not really?
I don't want to say like grew out of it, but like he found other interests. But he will still be like, oh hey, you know, like this new Mega Man game's coming out, or oh hey, like I can get the collector's edition of this game, like if you want me to get it for you.
What is your favorite fandom memory?
I feel like there's so many that it's hard to like narrow down, but something that I like look fondly on back on is actually like rather simple, but I remember like growing up in this small town or living in this small town when I had my one friend who would like teach me about all of these fandoms. We would drive 30 minutes to go to the mall. That was the closest mall, and there was a little like Japanese store in the mall, with a corner with like anime stuff, manga, like Japanese magazines. And I just remember like being so excited to go visit every time, and we'd get like one new thing every time. We'd like pick up a magazine and like learn more about like, like anime and manga and Japanese culture. And it's not really, like, a specific memory, but I just remember like, that was the springboard for, like, everything that I'm into now, so I look back on that really fondly, and it was just, like, a picture into, like, all this cool stuff in the world that you could be into that wasn't, like, just this boring small town that I lived in that I was, like, desperately wanting to escape, you know? So it, like, gave me hope that there was, like, cooler things out there, that I was gonna, like, grow up and have cool interests and, like, do cool things, so that's, like, a good memory to me.
That is definitely not silly, and I love that there was a place like that. Like,
Mm.
that's so nice, and I think it's really helpful for, especially when you're growing up, to be able to have access to at least, like, even if it's a little bit far away and even if you can't go to it all the time, just like a little bit of proof maybe also that the thing that you like is valid, because sometimes you
Yeah,
you
and it's, like,
you want
real,
that
it exists out in the
validation.
world.
Yeah, exactly. Were you a big manga reader or no?
I was definitely much more back then than I am now. Fruits Basket was my favorite, like, manga ever. I had the whole collection. I think it's still somewhere. So Fruits Basket and Inuyasha were probably the 2 that I read the most, starting in middle school. And every time we'd go to this little store in the mall, like, I'd be able to pick up a copy or 2. And me and my friend, we would just sit outside reading our manga, and we'd just, like, be so happy, and we'd buy Pocky. That would be our our treat, our little snack, and if they had maybe a plushie, sometimes we'd be able to get it, like, they'd, sometimes have 1 or 2 plushies that you could look at,
Yeah.
or, like, little keychains. It's so funny to think about because now you go to any, like, bookstore, comic book store,
Yes.
like, and it's just anime stuff everywhere, every
Yes.
IP. It was not like that when we were growing up. It was, like, very taboo. It was, like, very nerdy to be into, like, Japanese culture, and now it's just everywhere as far as the eye can see. It's just so wild how it's changed.
There's like such a huge difference, right? Of like when we were growing up versus now, where like you can find any anime stuff anywhere. You can find
Mm.
like any video game stuff anywhere, and it's very cool and it's very like trendy to be into gaming and to be into anime. And there's like a lot less stigma around it. Did you ever experience any stigma like that growing up? And if you were into that, like, did anybody kind of IRL, were they like, oh, that's like really weird that you're into that, and like I don't necessarily want to hang out with you if that's what you like?
Definitely, yeah.
Hmm.
I feel like there was, like, a small group of us that were kind of like you were the theater kids, the band kids, like, the
Yeah.
orchestra kids, and then we were also, like, kind of into this. And yeah, we were like losers, we were freaks, we were like, I can't believe you like that. Like, that's so weird. Very much there was a stigma.
Oh yeah.
Mick, what's your favorite fandom memory?
It's something that stuck with me for like pretty much the majority of my life, but I was like in first grade. I'm good at writing. Like, I've always been good at writing, but I'm not good at prompted writing. Like, when they would sit us down and be like, hey, you're going to write about this. You've got 30 minutes to do it. And like, I would freeze. But one day we had, I don't remember what the prompt was, but I just remembered that I wrote like pretty much the entire plot to Dragon Quest 1. And I turned it in, and I don't remember. Like, I think I passed. I don't remember if my teacher said anything about it, but it was just pretty much the entire plot of Dragon Quest 1, and that was, I think, probably one of my crowning achievements in fandom, I guess.
I am so desperate to know if your teacher read it and was like, "Wow, I've played this game." Like, "Oh, I've played this." If your teacher was like secretly a Dragon Quest player as well.
That would be cool if that were the case.
Was there ever a scandal within any of your fandoms, either that you just observed or that you participated in? Like fandom drama.
I was just gonna say, like, the scandal that I was thinking of is not actually like part of like the fandom. It's part of like the actual like game.
That counts.
Okay. The co-creator for Sonic the Hedgehog, who also worked at Square Enix, got sent to jail for insider trading.
Oh.
He used to work at Square Enix, but he so I don't know if you heard of the game Balan Wonderland, but it was an absolute disaster.
It's bad.
Oh no.
So after he released it and it was terrible, he just resigned from Square Enix.
He was like, I'm ashamed. Goodbye.
It is absolutely one of the worst platformers I've ever played in my life. It is that bad. He might have gotten stocks in I think he bought like 30,000 shares of a stock of I would say that it was a Dragon Quest game that was coming up, but I don't remember. I think for Dragon Quest 11 maybe they got him for that. So
what was your fandom drama, Jupie?
Oh my god.
You're not getting out of this. You said that it was embarrassing.
No.
You said that it was
I
embarrassing.
thought we forgot.
No,
I really thought we
forget.
forgot. Okay. I'm going to take you back to like freshman year of high school, Jupie. At my school, there's summer school, right? But we had summer school for bad grades where you need to like go make up classes, but we also had fun summer school.
Ooh.
And so I went to fun summer school because, like I said, my parents both worked full time, sometimes more, only child. I'm like young, can't drive yet, so I would go to fun summer school. And also I just really liked school. So any way to like do more school I wanted to do. I'm a nerd. And at fun summer school, there was a Hogwarts class. And something about the fun summer school is it wasn't just kids from my school. It would be kids from like surrounding areas that could come to fun summer school too. Like smaller schools could come. That way the kids could have something to do for the summer. So I'm in this Hogwarts class. We get like sorted by the sorting hat and everything. Like we're taking like potions. We play Quidditch. We're like it's very real. Okay. So it's amazing. And one of my first like crushes, like boyfriends ever comes from this class, and he's from another school, and he's a redheaded kid. So our thing is that like I was Hermione and he was Ron because my natural hair is actually brown, believe it or not.
I've never seen Jupie's natural hair.
You never
ever.
will.
I don't need to.
But yeah, it's purple. My natural hair is purple. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
So I was like, young me, I think that I'm basically Hermione Granger. That's my headcanon, and that this kid's Ron, and that we're gonna grow up and get married. We're very cute. He like writes me notes every day in class and like passes them to me. Like this whole like cute crush thing happening. And as the weeks go on, things are great. And then, we're talking on what is it at the time? AIM. We're talking on AIM after class because that's what you did. And he's like, so I have to tell you something. And he basically is like, I really like you, but I kissed this other girl and we can't be together anymore. And I'm like crushed. I'm like crushed. This is like the first boy that I've like ever liked.
Not him telling you over AIM.
He
That's
told me
crazy.
over AIM.
That is crazy. He didn't
And
want to
so-
tell you by passing you a note in class because he knew
Right.
he knew better.
Mhm. Yep. And we had like 1 week of summer school left or something. So I had to go and face him. And thankfully, like we were not in the same house. So we did not have to sit at the same table. But it was like the most devastating thing to me that like ever happened. And everyone started hating him after that because I told everyone.
As you should. So you won.
Like, yeah, he's mean and he said he liked me, but then he kissed another girl, so we don't like him anymore. That was like my fandom drama. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so sorry. You're so much better
Thank
than
you.
him.
Yeah, it's
You know
true.
what? You know what? He did not deserve you. He did not deserve to be the Ron to your
Mm-mm.
Hermione in that situation.
He really didn't.
And you know what? It's for the best. Wherever you are now, man, I hope you've
Yeah.
thought about what you've done.
Yeah, it worked out.
Kind of pivoting, has being in fandom, reading fan fiction, or like seeing art or creating any like transformative works in general, has it helped y'all discover anything about yourselves?
On Twitter, like I see a lot of people like posting their headcanons and stuff. Like they'll say, "Oh, hey, you know, like I see this character as like ace, arrow ace. I see this character as trans," and it's like, you know, maybe the writer didn't intend for it to be that way, but I can also see that, and that makes me feel valid and more rooted in my identities.
That is such a good point, and there are so many cool takes that I feel like I see on fandom Twitter that like I wouldn't have thought about, but then I'm really glad that somebody put in a tweet because I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Like you and I could play the exact same game, or we could watch the same thing and come away with like two completely different headcanons. There's like a certain subset of people who got really annoyed with me when I finished Bayonetta 3, and I was like, well, like to me Bayonetta is pan at the minimum. Like minimum.
Right.
And there were a lot of people who, not a lot of people, but like a certain amount of like loud people who were like, Bayonetta is clearly straight, like has been straight since game one. Like
Hello?
you want her to be a lesbian so badly. And I simply responded to them and I was like, well, that's kind of the beauty of games, right? Is that you and I played the same game, but we have two wildly different takes.
I feel like they did not play the same Bayonetta.
But there are a lot of people who kind of like had that same view, and I was like, wow, you know what? Like,
I mean, that's fair.
that's, you know what? Whatever you want to have, like that is totally your view, and you are entitled to it. But then, actually, in the opposite way, I've been like exposed to so many interesting takes on characters where I'm like, wow, I haven't thought about them in XYZ way, but like, I love reading somebody's like meta on Twitter about it. And then it helps me. I just feel like it helps me broaden my horizons and have like more perspectives on the world. And I really love it. Yeah, I like love reading about like, you know, what do you headcanon this person as? And, you know, or like even if it's not about sexuality, even if it's not about gender, like it could just even be about, there's a really popular headcanon to read, or like reading of Cloud from Final Fantasy VII as being autistic. And I'm like, damn, like that makes a hell of a lot of sense. I'm not an autistic person, but like getting to read that take and reading other autistic people's point of view as to like how they see themselves in Cloud, and how Cloud like brings a lot of like just like similarities and stuff, has been really, really, really cool for me to just, yeah, I feel like get more educated about other people's experiences in general. Jupie, what about you? What has it taught you about yourself?
Oh my gosh, so much. Now is when I talk about magical girls. So Sailor Moon has been like so instrumental in just like figuring out who I am as a person, I guess, growing up. I feel like I've always been, I guess, a girly girl. Growing up, that was like used against me. Like it was not like I was not meant to believe that that was like a good thing, or that there was power in like my femininity. When I started watching Sailor Moon, and I remember like watching it late at night when it came on air in the US, like, and learning like, and like watching these girls like be badass, be powerful with the power of friendship and magical transformations and just being true to themselves. It really struck a chord with me, and it made me feel like I could you know, do those things too, you know? So I love Sailor Moon. I think it's one of the best anime of all time. I think that a lot of the messaging still like stands really true today. And it's exciting to see so many people still really into the series now that it's been around for like 30 years.
Yeah.
And people still getting into Sailor Moon 30 years later. Like that just brings me so much happiness because it's something that has stayed with me for gosh, over 15 years of my life, you know? So that's yeah, it really changed my life and in such a positive way.
I want to ask y'all about your experience in fandom, like as you know, as a queer individual. Have you found fandom to be a welcoming space for you in general, or like have you found fandoms to be welcoming spaces for you?
I have, because like asexuality is one of those underrepresented identities. So like seeing other aces like in fandom has been a joy because we get to talk about like this character like is ace coded, or like we headcanon this character is ace, and we get to talk about why. And it's I don't know, like I don't get to have that with I guess what do you call non-fandom people, like normies?
I don't know. I don't know what non-fandom people are called.
Okay. But yeah, like I can't just be like, oh yeah, like I think like Mega Man is ace. Like if I say that to like some person on the street or some person that just plays Mega Man and they're not like in the fandom, like they're just gonna look at me, just be
Right.
like, what do you mean? Like Mega Man's a video game character. He's a robot. Like he doesn't have feelings. Like he's fictional.
Yeah.
And like I don't know. I feel like queer people in fandom, like they understand like that representation matters. Like, oh hey, like this character, like I don't know, like Korra for instance, is bisexual. So like, you don't really get to see bisexual characters like in media, but you get to take that and dissect it and talk about it with other people on the internet. So like it's been a good experience, I guess, to say the least, like being able to talk about that sort of stuff.
That is so true. Like, I think that there really is this openness within fandom to just kind of be like, I played this and like, I feel like this is what was happening. Am I crazy? Or, but like, and everybody, even if that's not somebody else's particular headcanon, they're going to be like, oh, tell me more about that. Like, I'm excited to learn about it. What did you think of this scene? And so I feel like people are for sure more like open and just like want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
In general, and I like that too.
I totally agree. I think that like fandom is incredibly welcoming of like the LGBTQ community and especially just like discussing like could this character be trans? Could this character be bisexual? Like maybe they'd have this, relationship, this queer relationship. And I think that like seeing that from such a young age, like middle school for me, was really eye-opening because I knew, I think well, I didn't actually come out as bisexual until I think I was 26, but I knew for a long time that I was. I think since, like, 6th grade even. So, getting to see that while I was, closeted and, it's what opened the door to me eventually wanting to, come out and feel confident to come out. So definitely very welcoming. I think of characters like Faye Valentine, who's someone who has been like super instrumental in me becoming like a more confident person. She's from Cowboy Bebop, obviously. She's super bisexual coded,
Oh yeah.
and I think is now canonically bisexual and Latina. So that's like so
What a
huge for
win.
me. Yeah, because she's always been one of my favorites. So I think of like my favorite characters like that are they've just like stood with me for so many years and made me feel comfortable to be who I am. So definitely.
I think also what's so cool about a lot of fandom spaces as well, and especially like a lot of like queer participation within fandoms, is that it helps other people learn about things too. Like there's so much on the gender and sexuality spectrum that I would have never known about if I was not participating in fandom, if I was not like
Mhm.
reading fic, if I was not like, huh, okay, like, hey, this is like an idea that challenges this way of thinking. Why do I have this way of thinking? This makes total sense. Like, yeah, okay. And then how like seamless it's kind of able to like translate. Like then you just become more aware. I think that's cool. So besides obviously Jupi, you mentioned Faye Valentine, and Mick, you mentioned Mega Man, and then I know that Victoria mentioned in the chat the Doctor as well. Oh, the Doctor, one of my favorite characters. Were there any specific fandoms or specific characters that helped you discover more about your identity? Like helped like kind of like awaken, not awaken your identity, but just like kind of get you thinking more about how you identify?
There's two for me. For the first one is Peridot from Steven Universe. Peridot, she's Arrow Ace, and like I've known for since I was like in 7th grade that I was Ace, but I didn't know that I was Arrow. Like that is one of my more recent identities. And like one of the main themes of the show is you, I guess, fuse with your friends and partners or whatever to become stronger. But Peridot, she doesn't fuse. She doesn't fuse, but she's still a viable cast member. And like it's been like confirmed that Peridot is Arrow Ace, which is nice. And then there's also I don't know if you've played Outer Worlds, but there's a character named Pavardi, she's Ace. She's actually one of the best written characters that I've seen. And not only is she Ace, but the main character, which is you, like you can be Ace and you can talk about like your Ace experiences. It's like a conversation that you would have like as an Ace person with another Ace person. Like, yeah, like I don't feel this way like everyone else does. And like I used to think that there was something wrong, but now I've met other people that are like me. Like seeing characters like that, or seeing characters that other people have written as Ace and like fan fiction and stuff, has like, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel more valid.
Jupi, what about you?
Oh, there's so many good characters. I love that you brought up Steven Universe, because another one that's like from a similar era for me is like Marceline and Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time.
Yeah.
They're like obviously a really cute sapphic couple, and to see that in something that is more geared towards being like a kid's show, I guess, I think was really cool for me to see normalized. Of course, in Sailor Moon, there's Sailor Mercury and Sailor Uranus, but it is canon in the Japanese original version that they are, in fact, a lesbian couple. So love that, love them. Probably one of my favorite queer fandom couples ever. More recently, a character that I've fallen in love with, I don't know if you've seen The Owl House, but it's a newer Disney show.
I love The Owl House.
Yes, it's so good. I highly recommend watching it. It's really, really cute. And the main character is bisexual and Latina. So that was like huge for me to see that in an actual kids show that's like being developed like in this year 2023. That like I cried watching it just to see that representation, because growing up, like I said, it wasn't until middle school that I first saw like someone that I could relate to, really, and now I'm seeing characters that look like me, that think like me, and it's like mind-boggling, and it makes me so happy that this is what kids are going to start to see as just normal now, because it is normal. Queer people have been around since the beginning of time and will always be here. So let's normalize it. Faye Valentine, obviously one of my favorites. I cosplay her. She's very near and dear to my heart. She's a bisexual queen.
Stepping outside of canon, what are your favorite queer headcanons?
So this is like a slight pivot in FPS, but my favorite is probably Reyna and Sage in Valorant, being because they definitely love each other, and I think are bi and lesbian, and hopefully one day that will be canon because everyone ships them together as well.
That's so cute. I love it.
The two mommies together.
I gotta start off with Mega Man X and Zero. I had headcanon them as being in a queer platonic relationship, with Mega Man being Arrow Ace and Zero being Zero being Ace. Yeah, I know they're robots, but they're robots that have human emotions.
Yeah, it's valid.
And also Phoenix Ray, which I think is also kind of a pun, but I had canon him as Ace, and he's an Ace attorney. So
Oh my gosh, that is
Makes
a very good
sense.
pun. I mean, look, it's in
Yeah.
the text. It's right there. What do you think is the biggest difference between fandom today? And we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of stream, but fandom today and fandom when you first like discovered it or were participating in it.
I guess just that it's like much more accessible now.
Yeah.
And more people are into it, which is awesome. 'Cause yeah, it used to feel like it was like a secret. Like if you knew about this, if you were into like fandom, it was like
Hmm.
almost something that you had to hide.
Totally. Yes.
So it's nice that it doesn't feel that way anymore. Like you don't have to be ashamed that you're into these nerdy things. Like there's tons of people out there that want to talk about it with you. So that's I think a really good thing.
Yeah, I think the ease of access, and since the world is more online, like
Mm,
it's like you still get the same people, but like before, like when I was in high school, it was like like I talked to these people at lunch or like at after school in the anime club or like online and guy online. But now it's like I can just go inside someone's Twitch stream, like someone from like Australia or like Japan, and just talk about fandom stuff. Like it's just instant now.
totally. Yes. Yeah, the ease of like I think it's easier to find people too. It's a little bit easier to find some sort of community. It's both easier and a little bit difficult. I think it's like
Mhm.
easier. It's easier on some levels and harder on others. I know that sometimes it's hard for me because I might find somebody that's like into the same thing, but sometimes you just like still run into the same kinds of like negative people or people that are like, oh well, I engage with fandom but I engage with it in the right way, or like I engage with it in the like the morally correct way, and I'm kind of like, oh, that sucks, I'm gonna leave. Like but on the flip side, it's like I again, like you said, I can connect with so many more people now, and it's a lot easier than me having to like dig through and try and find out where the forums are, like where everybody is, or like go through Tumblr tags. Actually, I really love the Tumblr tagging system, but still, it is a process to go through them. Is there anything you wish still existed in today's fandom scene that no longer exists?
There's not much that I can think of. I feel like things have gotten. I don't know. They've gotten better, even though I know some things have gotten worse. Like it's like people are more online, but they're also like very vocal about how they feel, whether it's positive or negative. But
Mm,
I mean, if I'm out and about wearing like a Mega Man T-shirt, like someone might be like, "Oh, hey, that's a cool T-shirt."
yes.
But like
Yeah.
back when I was in high school, like it might not have been that way. Like someone might have looked at me and been like, look at that nerd over there, like standing with his Mega Man T-shirt." Like, well,
Exactly.
yeah. So like, I don't know. Like, I guess it's better in some ways and worse in others. So I guess there's really not much that I would change aside from I wish people were nicer to each other.
There's just everything is just available now, so it's hard to like want to go back to the way it was
Yeah.
because it's progressed so much. And it feels like that's a really good thing.
Would you still say that you're like an active participant in fandoms today? And if so, like which ones?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely Sailor Moon, anime for sure. Like some of the newer animes, I love Jujutsu Kaisen. That's like a
Mm.
big one that I've really, really enjoyed. Demon Slayer is great. I've even done a cosplay. I just love anime in general.
Yeah.
I kinda, like, get into the Marvel stuff a little bit too. I'm not, like, too into the fandom, 'cause it's a little intense for me, I found. I do enjoy the Marvel movies, so I'm dabbling here and there. And definitely video games, obviously.
And Resident Evil, and then what other ones for you, Mick?
I've got Mega Man. I feel like that comes without saying.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Like I know a lot of people. I don't know. I don't know if people like. I like farming sims, and I put that in like a fandom category because there's a lot of people that I've met that are, I guess, in the farming sim fandom,
Yes.
and it's nice. Like, because I remember when I was like a kid and I played Harvest Moon 64. I would like try talking to people about it, and they were just like, I don't know what that is. And then when I was in high school, I was like, I love Harvest Moon. And then people were like, oh my God, that's like a baby game. And now it's like,
Oh,
there's so many people that are playing farming sims, and I can just talk about it. And people generally have the same reaction. Like, there are people that are just absolutely feral for farming sims, and I'm one of them.
I simply
Um,
love to be able to escape to a world where I can live off of my land and
Mhm.
not worry
Yeah.
about like capitalism
Yeah,
to a
sounds
degree.
great.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
incredible.
I guess there's like some that I'm like kind of passive in. Like I like the Fate series, like Fate Stay Night, Fate Unlimited Blade Works,
Yeah.
Fate Zero, and DBZ. Like I used to be really into it as a kid, but now it's kind of like I just kind of, I guess, consume it like from people that are adjacent to me. Like I don't go out and watch it, but I'm still like there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about anime fandoms that, like, I want to say they're kind of intimidating to get into, but they're not, because the people, at least the people that I know, they're pretty nice about it. But there's just like, I don't know, there's just so much out there, so much content and so much stuff. Like it just feels overwhelming sometimes.
That's valid. I think it definitely, especially with like bigger things, if you're kind of like just consuming that for the first time, it can be intimidating to be like, oh
Like
wow, there's
One
like,
Piece.
oh my God. And you know what? It's like I've never heard a bad thing about One Piece. Like people seem to really genuinely enjoy it, but I'm like, at this point, it is so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
Too
of
many
episodes. Like
episodes.
Yeah.
the ending is nowhere in sight. So I'm like, I
can't.
engage. I would love to. It seems like fun, but unfortunately,
I feel like I'm like too far past the point of starting that I'm
exactly,
like, sorry, I
And
missed
yet,
it.
and yet there are still people who are like, oh, I just started it. So I'm like, okay, I guess it's possible, but I don't have that kind of time.
I'm not ready for that level of commitment.
Yeah.
I very much agree. Last question before our bonus round. Rank your top 5 fandoms of all time. I forget what my answer was last time, but I think if I'm thinking about it today, this will be a cool experiment for me to look back on and see if it changes like every month or if I
Yeah.
actually end up keeping the same answer. I think my number 1 would probably have to be NCIS out of pure longevity. It's not really something I'm active in anymore, but it's like if I see a recommended Tony Ziva video on my YouTube page, like I'm gonna watch it. I'm in. I've already pressed play. Or like, if I come across content, like I'm still gonna engage with it. Or if like an episode was playing on a TV, I'd probably still watch it if it was one of the older ones. Gossip Girl,
Ooh.
maybe it's number 2 because I created a lot for that. I was
That
like
was
really
such a
active on.
time.
Yeah, it was such a time. I was
Wow.
on Tumblr. Like I was like really involved in like meta posting about things. Like maybe that's one of them. CSI has to be in there because it was my first fandom. I found fan forums because of it. BTS has to be in there now because I'm just so
You're so
active. I'm so active in it. It's just like that is all of the content that I consume. And then maybe 5 would be Doctor Who, maybe.
Ooh.
I think would be number 5. It's like it's funny that I don't put Final Fantasy in there because I think a lot of people would be like, oh, but you really like Final Fantasy. And I do really like Final Fantasy, but I'm really not active in like creating transformative work. Like I don't write fanfic about Final Fantasy because I feel like most of the games kind of like give me what I need. And if I want to theorize about something, I kind of like go and chat with my friends about it as opposed to like creating something for it. And like, yes, I cosplay for it, which is, an active participation in fandom, but I just don't think it doesn't occupy the same amount of brain space as other things do. So I think that Doctor Who would take the 5th spot because I was really, 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 really into it. And I'm behind and I desperately need to catch up. I'm like many seasons behind, but I loved it so much. And it's like lore is so rich and I had such a good time with it. And that was also like, vidding for it, like making fan vids for it and like reading a boatload of fic and all of that good stuff. So I think maybe I would put it there.
Nice.
I'm interested to see when I watch this VOD back.
If it changes.
If it changes.
All right. I think I would say, so Sailor Moon, number 1, obviously. It's
Of
like,
course.
my core, who I am as a person. I know I didn't talk about this, but it was such a huge part of my life, so I'm gonna include it. Animal Crossing. Like I still have that was like a full like year and a half, maybe almost 2 full years of obsession for me. And it used to be the only thing I streamed, so I have to include it. Love Animal Crossing. Harry Potter, obviously, because it was like, yeah, my first fandom, kind of brought me into the world and was just a huge part of my childhood. I guess Valorant, which is so embarrassing,
That's
but
not embarrassing.
I love Valorant. I watch the esports. I cosplay. Yeah, I do love it. There's just so many that are good. Yeah, maybe like honestly, maybe like NCIS, because like when we talked about that, it unlocked core memories for me of
Never
watching it
in my
every single
life.
day with my mom.
Wait, but that's crazy because I also found it because of my mom. My mom
Yep.
was watching it every day, and I was
Yep.
like, what is this?
And I just like it just sucks you right in.
Nobody on Twitch have I ever met that I would ever think would put NCIS in a top 5. So this just like really is a special moment for me. Thanks.
I just realized that I've like seen every episode and I'm like, yeah, that probably means something.
Yeah, yeah. When you're like, oh yeah, I remember all the details. Yeah,
Yeah.
valid. Okay, that's a very solid top 5 list. Mick, what about you?
All of mine are gonna be video games, so
love
Great.
it.
Yes, good.
obviously the top one is going to be Mega Man, because I think Mega Man pretty much formed my love for platforming. It's like the golden standard for platformers when I play games. Well, I mean, there's also Mario, but if it's 2D, I compare it to Mega Man.
Yeah.
And then number 2 would be Dragon Quest, which is pretty funny because the artist for Dragon Quest is also the artist for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
Oh wait, I never knew that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And most people like Final Fantasy as their RPG of choice, but Dragon Quest was the first RPG that I ever played, and I don't know, I like the art style, I like the themes, because like Final Fantasy is nice, but Dragon Quest, there's just something that's very whimsical and magical about Dragon Quest for me. I think number 3 would be Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons and Rune Factory. You know, Rune Factory is a spin-off of Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons, so I think they can fit in the same. I don't know, there's just something about it. Like, I have a lot of good memories playing Harvest Moon. I used to play it with my sister all the time, and then now on Twitch, I talk about it a lot with people. Like, someone will be playing Stardew, and we'll be like, yeah, you know that it's like based off of Harvest Moon, and then we'll get into like big discussions about how Harvest Moon is great and how Rune Factory is amazing, and you know, Story of Seasons, which is Harvest Moon now, or Harvest Moon was no, Story of Seasons was Harvest Moon, and so on and so forth. And then fourth is Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil.
Leon in his own category there.
Leon in his own category, yeah. I hate Chris. I don't know anybody that likes Chris.
I also don't know anybody that likes Chris.
He's just... There's just... I don't know. Have you ever played the original, like, Resident Evil or the remake?
No. Jupie, have you?
No.
I would say that most people would probably recommend the Jill experience over the Chris experience.
I mean, people do be loving Jill.
Jill's great. And then when I play Resident Evil 5, I don't play as Chris, I play as Sheva. And I guess number 5 is probably Monster Hunter. Most of the games on my list are Capcom games. But I love Monster Hunter. Like, it's just... Because, you know, I like playing support in games.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a support weapon that's just a musical instrument, and you can just slap monsters around with the musical instrument, and there's just something great about it. And the community for Monster Hunter, like, there are some people that are kind of like, you know, elitist, like, oh my god, I can't believe you would do blah blah blah. But there's a lot of people that are really, really nice, and they'll really help you out and get you started. It's like whenever I see new people like playing Monster Hunter on Twitch, like, there's usually someone in there that's like really nice. It's like, hey, do you want help? Like, do you need advice? Like, if you need any of those things, like, hit me up, add me, I'll run some missions with you.
That's so wholesome. All right, so bonus round. We have 3 surprise questions before we close out. First one is, who is your favorite villain of all time?
Oh, that's such a hard question.
That
There's
is a hard
so many good
question.
ones.
There's a lot of good ones, yeah.
Oh, I have like a silly answer and a serious answer.
Okay, great. Hit us with both.
Okay, my silly answer is Yzma from Emperor's New Groove because I think she's like the funniest villain of all time.
My wife.
And she's like just everything that I aspire to be, like her confidence, her scheming. She's just so funny.
Huge
I love
agree.
her. I love her endlessly.
Huge agree. Agree. Yzma's goals.
Yeah, she just is so great. I just rewatched that movie recently with my community. Someone hadn't seen it, and I was like, okay, well, we're watching it because it's like my favorite animated movie of all time. And yeah, it brought me so much joy. And then I guess, I mean, I have to say my husband, Ghostface, because I love him and he is just so iconic. And yeah, that's it. I'm a Ghostface stan first and foremost. So
I love that for you. I saw somebody cosplaying as Ghostface at PAX East, and I ran over to them and I was like, "I'm so sorry. Can I please take a picture with you?"
yeah,
and
you got the picture for me.
I immediately sent it to Jupie. I was like, I've seen Scream. Obviously, Ghostface is daddy but primarily because I know that Jupie loves Ghostface so much. I'm like, I know that she loves him. So, anyways, whenever I see Ghostface, I'm like, Jupie. And that's what I think
the
of.
Serial killer.
We love him. We stan. Mick, what about you?
I've got to say Wesker. He's so cheesy, and like I feel like he's the only person that takes himself seriously. Everyone else is just like, okay, yeah, sure, Wesker, because he just says stuff, and it's like he thinks it's serious, but like it's just 90s movie villain. And I love that they've kept that like across the series. And I mean, yeah, he's a bad guy, but he's just got the campiness.
What piece of media disappointed you deeply when it ended? Like you were kind of good with it, and then the ending happened and you were like, wow, I'm so disappointed. It kind of almost like ruined the experience for you.
I think Gossip Girl is really a good answer. Yeah, because that was just such a horrible ending, and justice for Gossip Girl because it should not have been who it was.
It's okay because the whole cast of Gossip Girl also hates how it ended. So
yeah,
we're vindicated in that.
It's so bad, and it's such a good show. So that was really disappointing for sure.
Well, I was gonna say Devilman Crybaby, but not. I wasn't disappointed. I was just torn apart by the ending.
Oh, okay. So Devil May Cry Baby is on my backlog because one of my friends was like, this is an incredible piece of art, but they were like, heads up, like you need to kind of be in a okay enough mental spot to watch this because it genuinely will break you. And I was like, at the time that I got the recommendation, I was like, ooh, okay, so not now. Like, I can't watch this now. So maybe now I could watch it.
Yeah. It took me like 2 weeks to get myself back together.
Oh no.
Yeah. But my answer is CSI. Like
so true. So
I feel
true.
like
speak on this.
They brought in DB, and like, at first I wasn't feeling him, and then he kind of grew on me, and then there was like the finale, and then he was nowhere to be found, and like Grissom was back, and it's like, what is this? Like, why are you here, and what? Yeah, and it felt like everything was kind of coming together, and then it fell flat. Like it wasn't a cohesive ending, I don't think.
I applaud you for making it that far because I made it to season, was it 8 or 9? Whenever Sarah left, I was like, because like she was my girl, and I was like, I'm out. Because I kind of felt like it was, and I did watch like some episodes, like I watched a handful of episodes that happened after that, so it wasn't like I kind of quit completely, but I was kind of already on the train outward, so I didn't even make it to like the very end. But I was mad enough that like I was just mad that Sarah and Grissom got together because I was like, I deeply felt that Grissom had said so many times that he was not interested in her. And I was like,
Yeah.
you deserve better, queen. Like, leave.
Yeah,
All
Let
of a
him
sudden.
make up his
just-
mind. I wanted him and Lady Heather to get together.
same. Those choices didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. It was a rough time. What is your favorite headcanon, just like in general, or slash fan theory that you've read or that you created that you're like, oh, this is like this is really good, and this is one of my favorite things that has like come out of fandom.
I feel like I'm not really into like I don't know theories and things like that.
That's okay. That's okay. You can
I want to
pass.
learn more about them.
I think that Mario, Peach, and Bowser are in a polyamorous relationship.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Spicy. That is a good one. I've never heard that before, but I support it fully. Last question to end the night, which is who you can say like a top 3 if you can't settle on just one, but who is like your favorite character, your favorite fictional character?
I'd say, yeah, mine has to be Sailor Jupiter. Has to be my favorite. Love her. She is everything.
Mine would have to be Mega Man Classic. Like, not X, but just the original Mega Man. Because he's a good boy, and he's always trying to do the right thing by the people that love him. And he's really sweet, and he doesn't really, like, I don't know, he always tries to see the good in everybody.
I love that. And he's the one that started it all, right?
Yeah.
That's why he's the classic. This has been so nice and so fun to get to know y'all better, hear about all the things that you love. Thank you both for being here, Mick and Jupie. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you,
And
Katie.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
this was so fun.